library, though. I don't know why.
I don't like going here either, actually.
This is the first time I've been here this entire semester.
Shows what good students we are.
Interesting.
I'm a commuter, so
Okay.
I don't stay here.
You want to start off, I guess?
Yeah. What is your name?
Linda Oliver Grant.
When and where were you born?
I was born in Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania, in the 50s.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Mount Pleasant, which is Wayne, which is a section of Wayne, and it's in Chester County.
Have you lived anywhere else?
I lived in Alton, Illinois, which is southern Illinois.
How did you like living there?
I didn't, because everything is flat, and it's the middle of the country. I'm an Easterner, so I didn't really care for it. But I was there because my husband was in the Air Force at Chanute Air Force Base, and my uncle was a pastor. So I lived with him because I couldn't get there wasn't any living space on base. So he was in northern Illinois. I was in southern Illinois.
Anywhere near Chicago, or is that more out west of Chicago?
Chanute, or no, Alton was all the way near Missouri, St. Louis. It was 18 miles out of St. Louis.
I'm trying to picture Illinois.
Mm-hmm. It's a long state. Mm-hmm.
Now, when did you come back then?
Came back before he went overseas for the war.
Okay.
So I came back and stayed with my parents.
Okay.
What kind of jobs did you have?
Human resources generalist, human resources manager, financial aid manager at a theological seminary.
Interesting. Did you enjoy that?
I did.
What did you like about it?
The seminary, that seminary, we had a lot of international students. So we had students from China, Africa, countries in Africa, Germany, Great Britain, just all over the world. And so actually I did a lot of interviewing with those students, whatever their problems were, trying to get financial aid for them. Many of them came across the country, left their jobs to become seminarians, pastors, that type of thing. Those who were in other countries left, of course, their countries, and sometimes lived there for about 5 to 8 years, depending on whether they're getting a doctorate degree or what level degree they were getting. Many of them had families that they left behind in order to pursue their degree here.
Were there a lot of clashes because it was so many different cultures in one place?
I have to say no. I didn't see a lot. I saw mostly the international students, those from Korea. We had also Koreans. Korea, Africa, they would help each other. Mm-hmm. They lived in the dorms with each other. They helped each other with classes. And it wasn't so much it was a seminary as it was that they had a common goal of what they need to do. Most of the international students could live there. They had to have their own living expenses, and the school provided for their education. But after that was over, they signed a commitment to return to their country. So for the most part,
it's nothing like a college like Cabrini or like a Penn State where it is a lot. You had to go, basically you had to learn and then do your work afterwards, basically is what you're saying.
They had, before they would come into the country, they had a full ride for living expenses. That means someone was, offering them money to come here and live. They had to have that thing. Every year they had to complete a form. They had to have proof. The student had to have proof where that money was coming from for their whole full 5, 6, or 7 years. Most of them worked at the school in the mailroom. They answered the phone receptionists, but for the most part they were studying. So they were supported by other people in the United States. Sometimes those who were in their own countries.
So that's similar to the naval academies because I think they go for free,
Mm-hmm.
and then they got to put a certain amount of time in the armed forces once they graduate. So something kind of similar to that.
Okay. But they were, and they had to keep their grades. They had to have B or better in order to stay. When it came to the doctor's degree, as you know, you had to go in there, and the professor has to say, are you in that category? That can you stay there? All kinds of things. So there were a lot of criteria. My job was to award scholarships to international students who were coming into the country. There was X amount of dollars. So, and we even had domestic. We had domestic scholarship, but the international scholarship at that time was large.
And how are these individuals chosen? Did you have to interview them, or was there a committee that interviewed them?
There was a committee, so I was head of that committee, and there were different people within the school that you would read, their background. Lots of them were pastors. Many of them wanted to go back. For instance, Nigeria. They wanted to go back to Nigeria and teach at the seminary there. That means that they were educated here in one of the top seminaries, and then they would go back and teach class there. So, there were ways, and then for the most part, if it came down to like 5 people, then they would do a one-on-one or whatever with that prospective student. So, and then they were brought in.
Not an easy road, I wouldn't think. For them.
It wasn't, and then being here so long, and then having to go back. If you're here 5 years in the United States, and the privileges.
Yeah.
Some people did not want to go back. They just, they wanted to stay. Some defected. I think some of them defected, and they went to Drexel, they went to other places so that they would not have to go back. But the idea was within 6 months' time after graduation, the promise was that you would go back to your country.
What do you do for a living now?
Because I've been unemployed for a while, I got a job at QVC part-time at the outlet in, it's Fraser, Pennsylvania, but it's near Malvern. Where are you from?
Philly.
Oh, okay. Go west.
I've heard of Malvern, but not Fraser.
Fraser is a little town, it's right next to Malvern. Mm-hmm.
What were you working at the seminary before this job or?
Before the job, yeah. Mm-hmm.
What are like some of your childhood memories?
It's a small community. Our family moved here we lived with our grandparents in Bryn Mawr, and we moved here. I was a baby when we moved here. Mm-hmm. So I'm one of the youngest. There are 3 other sisters.
Oh, girls.
And yes, I have one younger sister. My father was a minister, and my mother was she's a Sunday school teacher, not trustee, but a deaconess, and she did all kinds of things in the church. So she, it was a close-knit community where if your mother wasn't home, people watched each other's homes. You did not lock the doors. The bread man came in, put the bread on the table. The milkman came, put the milk in your refrigerator.
And this is Mount Pleasant, right? You're talking
Yes. Did not, it was predominantly black, but not all. And so we played in the street. There was a huge playground up there that, we had baseball. There was a community center there before they knocked it down, was built there with all kinds of, like the bookmobiles, things like that. The church, not everybody went to the same church, but there was a church there connected right on Upper Gulf Road. But it was really a close community.
Now, do you currently live in that neighborhood?
I live on Radnor Road.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So are you in and around Mount Pleasant still?
Yes.
What do you think would say has changed the most from your childhood living there to now?
Well, the people, you can't trust everybody. We don't know who's living in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not right in the neighborhood, so it's a little different. But I do know that a lot of my friends who are still there, my understanding is they're having problems with the students. Because a lot of the homes that were left to, you know, children of those who lived there before, or students are there. And they do not respect the properties for those who are still there, living in the community, or the people. And so you can't leave your door open. These are just the times. You can't leave your door open, and they usually try to trust each other. There's still people that know each other, and they, try to depend on each other, but it's not like what it used to be.
Now, you said you had friends there. Any relatives that still live in here?
No.
It's actually going to be my next question about how do you feel about the younger kids from Cabrini or Villanova?
Well, one of my sisters lives in Radnor, and the same thing happened, to them, the Villanova students in Radnor, and trash, parties, disrespect for other people's property, that kind of thing. That goes on from Villanova. I don't know anything about Cabrini other than what people are telling me. I don't experience any of that because we don't have students, in that area. Those are just all homeowners. So, mature homeowners. So we don't have that right now. We don't, in where I live. But I have been told that it's pretty bad.
I understand. I think there's an area of vacant land at the bottom of the hill. I don't know if you know exactly. I guess I think a developer bought it. I forget the name of the road.
Henry Avenue?
That might be it. It's just, you go down the bottom, it's just all this
right.
vacant land. What would you want to see there the most if you had the choice?
I'd like to see some affordable homes. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily low income, but affordable.
You just follow the style of the other homes?
No, it doesn't have to follow the style, but I think the plan is to drive out the minorities, and so that the style home would be, the townhouses that all are going up. So that leaves no land. Trees are gone, because that is what happened beside me. The whole, we call it the forest or the woods back there, it's all been cut down. And when I was a child, we could walk through there. And then if you had a project at school, you had to worry about leaves or finding rocks or whatever, geodes, those kinds of things. Yeah, there were snakes there. There was a creek that ran through it. You could drink out of if you got thirsty, or just stay in the woods to get cool. There's nothing like that, and the wildlife is in danger. It's just not there. And so it's how many homes can we get into one space? I have a problem with cutting down the trees. I have a problem with trying to move out certain level income of people, and trying to, come back, because At the time that I was growing up, no one wanted to be where we are. Now all of a sudden, hey, this is valuable property. We'll give you X amount of dollars, take it and run. And you really can't buy an affordable, decent place for the money that's being paid. Your best bet is to stay there if you want to rebuild and invest. But their children are not interested in staying in the community. So they just sell it and move on.
I live in Drexel Hill, which is
Mm-hmm.
Delaware County.
Mm-hmm.
They're talking about planning on building a shopping center, and that just feels like it's
Really?
more traffic than there already is. And I don't know if they plan to do that with that land, but that would probably be the worst scenario, you would think.
I don't think so. The landowners, I really believe that they want residential, but they want high end.
Okay.
And so, there goes redlining, all that kind of thing. When my husband and I purchased our first home in Ardmore, there was a Quaker woman, and I can't remember her name, and she helped middle-class blacks find homes with a flashlight. She would show the home in the dark with a flashlight and say, this is what it looks like. So none of the Caucasian neighbors could see who was coming in. Then would offer financing. So we got a home, even though it wasn't a predominantly white neighborhood, we went to a lot of homes, okay? I found out later from a church member that they still live in King of Prussia. That's how they got their home. This Quaker lady, she was a friend of Miss Hall. And suburban fair housing, that's what it was called. And they financed the homes. They backed the financing for the homes for middle-class blacks. And so a lot of middle-class blacks, when they start selling here, that's how they got their single homes.
Now, was she working for a company or a bank? Or just
That was her,
herself?
yes. And maybe a few other people that backed it financially. That was their funding. So it goes back to history. African Americans have been here 300 years. We have lived here for 300 years in this suburban area. The church in the Great Valley has African Americans in their graveyard. You want to go research some history, go down there. They'll be glad to show you who was down there. The slave, she wasn't a slave. She was brought on a slave ship, but set free because some people intervened on that ship. And she worked off like servitude, like some people in England would work off, servitude, service. And she's buried there. And maybe another. But we've been here 300 years. And a lot of people coming from maybe other states, other areas, they don't understand. They don't even know about that we've been here 300 years. It is not new. And, there are older people who are born and raised, they're born in homes in Bryn Mawr, or wherever they live, they were born in the homes. Maybe not Bryn Mawr Hospital like I was and my sisters, but they were, born in the area. There were at least 3 medical doctors, 3 black medical doctors, 1 in Wayne, 2 or 3 in Bryn Mawr, and 2 in Ardmore. Black dentists in Bryn Mawr, and they had various businesses all throughout, dry cleaning, all of that. And they were all connected. I think they were all internists. They weren't just medical doctors, but that's when doctors, you guys don't remember this, doctors went to your home if you were sick. And they did house calls. They don't do house calls anymore.
It's dangerous.
I'm sorry?
It's dangerous.
Yeah, well, yes. It's a different time now. It's a different time, yes. But and there was an African American real estate. He owned a real estate that was in Bryn Mawr. He was a realtor rather, and so, It was heavy duty. It wasn't. The people took care of themselves. They worked, every day. And so, things go on. Now you have kids from other areas. You're in people are in college. They do different things, that kind of stuff. Whatever they do on, because my kids went to college too. I'm hoping they didn't go into people's houses and do things like that. But and so that this has become a problem. It's become a problem, and there's no respect. And I believe that they should be the ones doing this interview. There's nothing wrong with either one of you doing the interview. But those that they're having problems with should be finding out who those people are in those neighborhoods, and listen and hear about them. And they should be made to do some kind of a community service with them. I think they're getting away with things, and they'll never learn. They'll never learn how to get along with other people because they feel like if they're on a certain level, whether it's class level or whatever, I don't have to. I don't. It's not necessary for me to even deal with people like this. And so I appreciate it, whatever. But I just really believe that they should be the ones.
I know I know they had the same problem with Temple. Kids keep going further into the neighborhood. I feel like at the time, you're just going on your parents' money. You don't have a general idea of real world. What do you think would be an ideal way to combat this? I guess how the kids are acting, or
I think before they go and live in those places, be mandatory that they go through the community and listen to the people. Yes, one on one with the people who live in that community. And if they don't go through it, you don't get to live here. Mm-hmm. Also, the landlords need to abide by whatever they have in place to allow, they say, okay, we're renting it to 4 kids. Mm-hmm. Well, by the time it's over, there's like, there's 8 in there. And I believe they should be fined, and whoever, if it's over 4, that they should be made to find other places to live, and they should not be allowed to live there. You should just take them out.
I think fines would be the best. And just, I guess overall like you were saying, the occupancy is probably the worst part.
And that's really bad.
But like with fines, I think depending on their socioeconomic status, it won't mean a thing to them.
To pay
That's true. Yeah.
So it would have to be more like it would have to be like more of a legal issue with law enforcement involved to like actually get something done.
Just thinking of academic for a second, but off campus, school has nothing to do with this.
Yeah, like the school won't get involved with that aspect.
No.
Because it doesn't directly affect the school.
Yeah.
But when it starts affecting the school,
we have this.
Mm-hmm. And it may affect the school. And the neighborhood has not gone to the school and say, look, these are your students, and we want them to act right. Find a way that will work with the community and with the school. If they start making the school responsible, something's going to get shut down. Because it's going to get Cabrini. That's what happened with Villanova. But Villanova, it wasn't just African American communities. It was anybody who was attached. I mean, all around into Villanova, everybody started complaining about the Villanova students. And Radnor Township shut it down.
Now, what town is it? What town, is that Radnor? It's right on the border.
This is called the Panhandle, where Chester County, Delaware County, and Montgomery County come together. Yeah.
Did you experience any racism growing up?
I had to say very little. Even the schoolmates that I had, I probably experienced more as I became an adult. Because a lot of my classmates, they lived not too far from the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. Uh, and I still see classmates when they come to QVC sometimes, and we're grabbing each other and hugging each other. We're well knitted. When the 60s came and everybody was, walking out because we're protesting, it wasn't just African American. There were Caucasians who walked out with us for, as far as Martin Luther King, standing up for certain things. We had student council in Conestoga. That student council was developed because we protested that there weren't any student council representatives of African American descent. So they placed two of them on there. The African American history, whatever, that was all orchestrated, was founded at that time. It was only when I became an adult that I found out that I was not accepted. We don't care where you came from, but you're just not accepted, in certain places.
Like, what kind of places?
More like getting a job.
Getting a job. That's why I'm still unemployed. Getting a job, different, just all kinds of.
Simple as buying a car.
No, we never had that problem. Now there are some banks that did redline, and we would have to go to regular conventional mortgages. We couldn't go to a regular bank and get a loan. We got our loans from conventional mortgages. Or in the beginning, our first house we got was because a Quaker couple put the money down for us. My husband got out of the war. We had to have money down, even though it was a VA loan, and they placed the money down for the house. So we had to go, around. And, if it wasn't for our faith, if it wasn't for the Lord, just changing those things around and at those times, nothing would get done. I'm having problems even with the company I work for now. I'm trying to get over to the corporate office right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason with my background that I don't get some kind of job. I'm not looking for the VP job. I'm just looking for a full-time job. It really depends. It's race, age, gender. There are a lot of things that come into play. And so I have to say not so much as I was when I was a child. No.
It's very interesting.
It is.
So, what is your educational background?
I have a bachelor's degree from Rosemont College. Business management. Mm-hmm.
That really kind of puts things in perspective. Like, for me, even being, an African-American female and trying to, further, better my life and my situations, and looking at you, it's like, it still exists, the whole discrepancy between race, gender, class, and it's huge.
It's it's really it's interesting. I remember because as an HR generalist for the steel company, I had to. My boss would say, "Linda, it's yours. You've thought of it." You would do like that, and I would stand in front of a lot of people, and they said, "Well, where's Linda Grant?" And I said, "Right here." And they said, "Oh, okay. I'm standing in front of you. I talked to you on the phone. What is the problem?"
Right.
Okay, you got me? I go to pick people up from the airport. It's the same thing. I'm Linda. I'm from Ryerson. Get in the car so we can take care of some business, stuff like that. So you find there are problems like that, and I've seen people face get red because they just know who we are. They know how we talk. They know how we roll. I was accused of acting out of character because, well, what does a black person? How are we supposed to act?
Did you experience that from other black people? Because I know for me, My friends, like, especially when I was in, like, elementary school, middle school, it was like, why do you sound like a white girl? I was like, what does that mean?
What does that mean?
Like, what does it mean to sound like a white girl?
Yes.
When I'm just speaking proper English, the same English that you should have learned.
The Queen's language.
Yeah, pretty much. And so it's like, I never got it.
But you can't, yeah, and even my interaction with some people from Philadelphia, I didn't have those experiences. That isn't my fault. I mean, I didn't tell my parents when I was little when they placed me here, okay? And so I'm going to see things a little differently and I didn't experience anything. I didn't live in the projects. I didn't experience any of those things. That doesn't mean that I didn't experience, I don't know who I am, let's say that. I don't know my grandfather and my father, they recited black poetry all the time. So I would know who Langston Hughes was when I was growing up. I would know who I am. And I just, you struggle on both sides. You reject it on two sides.
Yeah.
And
it's like your people resent you
mm-hmm.
for being different.
Right.
When really you are the same.
Yes.
It's struggle.
It is, but that's their problem.
True.
I can't get it. I can't, even racism, that's your problem. My husband was born and raised in North Carolina. He has seen the Klan come up on the property and burn crosses. He has seen a lot of things in the South that we didn't see here. He's seen a lot of. I mean, they had two different in the same school district. Black school, white school. Yeah. He's seen all that. He lived it, and then at a young age moved north. But his family stayed down there. But he doesn't allow any of those things to bother him. Our father told us that you cannot hold people accountable for things of ignorance, and that even though my father, who was born in Alabama and was beaten as a young child and left to die because he asked a white man a question, never had hatred in his heart for other people, and he never taught it to us. But his older sister said they had blocked the road and they were riding their bikes to school, and he said, well, how are we supposed to get to school? And they took him off his bike and beat him. And he must have been unconscious for days because he thought that he was hit by a car, but his sister said it was not that way. His older sister said that he was beaten and by white men, and that they thought he was going to die, and he was really, really young. He never taught hatred to us. We were expected to get along with people and respect people. If people rejected you, you can't hold on to that because it's a cancer and it eats at you. So there's no need for that. You just got to keep going. Be the best that you can.
Now, did your father grow up religious as well? Like with a strong, you said he grew up in North Carolina?
In Alabama.
In Alabama, so like a lot of Southerners have strong religious roots. Was that the case for him?
Yes. He grew up Methodist, became Baptist. But all his, even one sister, all of his brothers were ministers. And like I said, his one brother was a pastor. Mm-hmm. And so, strong religious roots. That's,
that he instilled into you.
Yes.
Are you Baptist?
Right now, non-denominational. But I grew up Baptist. I grew up Baptist my whole life. My grandparents, my great-grandparents, my great-great-grandparents, before that, and like on my mother's side. If you go to Virginia, the churches there that my great-grandmother went to, or my great-great-grandmother. They went to that church. And my sister, who is a pastor, at that time they did not allow female preachers to come in, but she was the first female minister to come and preach at that pulpit in Virginia. So, on both sides.
Have like any historical events directly affected you and your family?
Well, Martin Luther King, because of that, my father met him. He worked at Bryn Mawr College. So when Martin Luther King came through, he spoke to Martin Luther King. It changed a lot of things in this country that weren't right. The right to vote. By the time I was able to vote because those systems that were instilled in the South and all through the country had been dissolved. I believe that we're going backward in this country.
I agree with you. We were some friends of mine. I work in the diversity office here. We were having this conversation about the whole Trayvon Martin thing, and how lately racism, like the racial tension in the country is so strong, like to the point where it could potentially be like race riots all over again. And it's kind of scary, and it's depressing because you think that we're in 2012 we would have progressed a lot further than we have, but it's like we're regressing.
It's been a progressive stage that you sort of, you look at it and see how far behind, because, things have gotten, like you said, it's not even that in that case. There are just so many other things that have happened in this country that, I remember being in, where was I? Oh, I had started Rosemont College and I was working. Anyway, I remember a fellow student asking me, well, I know you get your jobs because they give you special tests. I said, excuse me? I said, I didn't have a special test, just like here in Rosemont. The teachers give me the same, test that you're getting. And I said, that's not true. I have a sister who worked for GE when GE was up on the hill in King of Prussia. And she applied for a position at GE, government facility, She did not get the job. And she knew someone some connection on, she said, like, she's really bright. She said, I know I passed that test. There was an investigation. The woman was throwing any black applicants, their applications, in the trash. They discovered that. And she was hired, the woman was fired. And see, they get government contracts. So they must have a certain amount of people. But this lady was throwing the applications. And I'm telling you, it happens now. My one friend, she has, she's calling for, jobs, employment agency, whatever. They tell her, we want blonde hair and blue eyes. Now, they don't know who she is on the other end of the phone. These are things that are real. I don't really care that people don't believe it, but I know for myself it's real. It happens. And where legally you can get in trouble for that, but it's too easy to say, oh, you don't meet our requirements.
Yeah.
That's all that has to be said.
Without really specifying
That's right.
Which requirements that you don't meet.
Exactly. So when quotas were put in place, which everybody had a problem with, it forced, other people, not only African Americans, into the workforce. Now, females are not minorities. They're just a protected class to a certain extent. But now you can hire blue-eyed and blonde hair and say, okay, we got a protected class in here, that kind of thing. Or we can have Asian and we prefer them to come in. There are all kinds of little angles to this thing. So it goes on and it's, still happening. And now we have to show ID to vote.
Pretty interesting to hear because like the place where I work at, it's USLI and King Prussia. I think we're pretty diverse, and the same when I come to class here.
Right.
So I'm pretty oblivious to the things like that. To hear it's
I don't necessarily agree with you with the diversity here. There has been like an influx of black students in the past, I want to say year or so, but this is not a diverse campus at all. Like, I can count, like, a lot of my classes, I'm the only black person in there. Or it's maybe two other. In our ECG class, there's just two African American people. And so it's not, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why, but.
I did go to the temple for 5 years.
Did you?
Probably used to.
See, that is very different. I live right there at Temple. I live in North Philly. So it's very different.
But it's the same thing for me now. There are those who go. My daughter went to a predominantly black college. My son didn't want to, and so, there are some people saying, "Why didn't you go to?" And I'm saying, like, I live here. Why am I going to search it out? It would have been nice to have that experience, but I never had it. So if I missed something, then I missed it. But I didn't do it. I went to Roosevelt College.
Now, was that diversified at all, or were you in the minority? Like
Rosemont was. And it's real interesting that it was, just in all kinds of ways. Even in our graduation, the person who came from Chicago and what her mission was for the street people, that kind of thing. And, when you saw the people across the board, it was pretty diverse.
Do you think that a lot of diversity has to do with Rosemont being an all-girls school, so it was like...
It could be. It could have been. It could have been. That could be a reason. I never felt really uncomfortable there. We all were in the same boat. It was like, help us, because we were adult students. This is an adult student, and we were just, sort of. And so it was different.
So you're saying you're working part-time, so obviously I would think you're looking for a full-time position. Do you have any plans in the future regarding where you work or where you live, anything? What would be your next thing?
I just continue to put my application on the computer, that kind of thing. Right now, my husband, his business is in this area. So, I mean, if I could get on the train and go to Philadelphia, that'd be okay too. But I know there's too many places even out here that I should be able to find a job. And it's not happening. Before it was because of the economy, but I've seen a lot of people hired now. And I have friends who are saying, because really the higher percentage of people who get jobs are because they know somebody who works for where, that's
me.
Yeah, that's what usually happens. But that hasn't happened for me. When I got the job at the seminary, it was a woman I had known for years. She was the registrar. She said they have an opening. And I can tell you that I did not know anything about financial aid. I taught myself by reading the manuals in the state of Pennsylvania. and was certified. And they hired me. So it can happen if they want it to happen.
Right.
If they want you there. But
the thing is, they don't want you there.
And remember, if I'm human resources, I'm a change maker. You may be one that has to change those systems. I don't know if you've ever heard of institutional racism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've heard, I forget exactly what it is.
Yeah, it's systems interwoven in corporate America or in that prevent certain races or classes to get in a job, and they're very sophisticated. I got a book, and it's really old, but I got it on Amazon.com, and that's what I see when I go in these places. It is so slick. Martin Luther King's daughter used to say that it was like a sophisticated thing dressed up in a tux, and it's not as blatant as you go down south and somebody says you're not coming here, so and so. At least you know your place, you know where you're going. Mm-hmm. They don't do that in the north.
It's similar to, I guess, overt discrimination, where I guess they say, oh, you need to be able to, I'm just making this, lift 200 pounds.
Right,
that
exactly.
Discriminates against all women.
Mm-hmm.
So
exactly.
Along those lines.
There are systems put in place that you cannot get into. You cannot walk in that door.
That's like with the SATs. When they first implemented them, they were made to keep blacks out of college.
Mm-hmm. And what was it in there, an SAT, that kept blacks out of college? Because it never bothered my son. He didn't have a problem with it. It really depends, because this is what happens. When you're in certain areas, depending on how the schools are and what you're taught. Level. Yeah, and what you're exposed to.
And they know, like, inner city kids,
exactly.
They don't get paid. Like, right. they don't have the money going to, like, per student. Like, in Philadelphia, it's only, like, $9,000.
Okay.
And here, it's probably double. Mm-hmm. Almost triple. Yeah, it's like.
Yeah, because my son didn't have a problem. I mean, my daughter is an average student. She would tell you that, even when she was partying, whatever. She's an average student in college. My son and his son, who was getting ready to graduate from high school, mm-hmm. And has a full ride to Penn State. They don't have those problems. But it's because they were exposed to certain things.
Yeah.
If you're not exposed to it, I have a nephew who went to Radnor, and he went to France, can speak French, and stayed with a French family. Came back, went to college in the area, went back to France, and it's the same thing. He did not have that problem, but it was his exposure, the school that he went to, that allowed him to be able to, you see that? And he's real intelligent too, but all of those things. So, where does it stop? I don't know. And even if you are exposed, and even if you are on a, level playing field, maybe, there's someone who's going to stop and say, we're just not going to accept you because of who you are. You just can't come here and do that. Do you have anybody who comes in and, you're a diversity person, who comes in and speaks to the students or even the schools on all levels?
I guess freshman orientation, we had things like that. I can't quite remember anything since.
Mm-hmm. And that's only if you come in the fall, because I came in as a transfer, and you get nothing when you come in as a transfer. Mm-hmm. Nothing at all. Or if you come in the spring semester. And it's, like, hard. And, like, people, I noticed here, like, I've been working in the diversity office for maybe 2-3 years. People don't come in. The only people who actually come in there are the minorities. Some people don't even know that the office exists or where it's located, which is a problem. Like, and I'm not exactly sure what to do about it.
Do they just have it because it's necessary, or they?
Yeah. Oh, the office is new. It's fairly new. It's only been here for probably 3 years. So I've probably been working there 2 years. It's probably only been there for 3 years. Like, it's brand new. Like, before 3 years ago, there was no Gay Straight Alliance on this campus at all. And we had to fight to get that. So, like, it's a lot of the things you talked about that goes on this campus, but it's not talked about.
That's because they're not made to come together. You know, when you come into college, you're trying to get those grades, you're trying to get in, and you're trying to get out. And the other things don't really matter until you go into the corporate world or wherever you're gonna, then you're interacting with all kinds of people. You don't know how to deal with those people, and that's the problem. Yeah, we have it on campus, but it's not a working thing. There are not instances that are presented. What would you do in this instance? You're the manager of HR, and this happens. If that's what you're coming to school for here, graduating with a, I don't know, HR degree or business degree, you're going to be some type of manager. You could be a vice president at some point. What are you going to do when you get to that point, and you say, okay, this is what's happening. What do I do? These people are looking at you, sitting side by side, and they're having a problem, some kind of diversity issue. How do you work it out? You have to make sure that people are presented with something, and so it's not dead. It doesn't become dead and say, oh, this is the office, and we're writing out $12,000 in the budget. We got it over there. How are the students being prepared? Those who are going in the work, world. How are you being prepared for wherever you're going, or whatever you're going to do? How are you being prepared? How are you going to talk to people? You went to Temple, okay, you probably pretty much know how to get along with a lot of different types of people. But what of those who are in that glass building, glass house? They're not made to take that class. Doesn't mean anything. Just like the kids down the street, they're not made to understand other people. My dad, they'll pay the fine. What's the big deal?
Thank you again for your time today. Learn a lot, and we watch it and learn more about it. So.
Sure. Now, what do you do when you go?
I'm a personal umbrella underwriter.
Oh, you're okay.
So basically evaluate applicants, and as long as they don't have any crazy exposures on their household, give them a quote, and then we go from there and see if they want it.
Oh, okay. All right. I was an underwriter, but it was for auto.
Okay.
Years ago, Allstate. Nobody likes the underwriter.
There's always too much back and forth. It gets aggravating sometimes, especially when you have a crazy MVR. So.
All those reports, all the.
But I'm lucky to have a job without a degree. So finishing up at night, actually, and I actually take this class during my work.
That's great.
It's convenient because it's right down the road.
Yeah, that's good.
Pretty lucky.
Because a lot of them aren't getting jobs. Anything else?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm gonna make sure you don't have a ticket.
Oh, I don't need any ticket.